Hi, this is Thomas Farley of southwestrockhounding.com, southwestrockhounding.com, and I want to focus today on one element of the Public Land Survey System. The Public Land Survey System, the PLSS. It's a living antique that's used every day. If you file a mining claim today, you're not going to mark your four corners with GPS coordinates. You're going to mark them using this system, which involves meridians, townships, range lines, sections. It's obtuse, but we have to deal with it as it presents itself. This is the kind of information you're going to have to record with BLM and to research effectively any claim, because all claims the last 150, 175 years have been established this way. But let's just start with townships and just jump into townships. A township is generally 6 miles by 6 miles square. It's a basic unit of the PLSS. You have, like here is in Yolo County, typical 6 mile by 6 mile township. And each of these has, again, roughly 36 sections. Each section is approximately a mile square, give or take. There's all sorts of exceptions. But what puzzles people most about townships is the way that each section, each mile square within the township is numbered. Because it's done from the left to right rather than right to left. So we start out with 1, go to 6, drop down to 7, move over. So it makes it really confusing in the field to know where you are. If you're going to the northwest from 15, you're now into 9. So you might have, like my Montana tells me, township, range, and section. But even with that, navigating across lines gets very confusing. The reason they did this, and I still don't know why they started on the right or the east, but they came across, they dropped down because otherwise they'd have to backtrack. So let's say this started with what everybody might prefer. Here's what people might prefer. Is you start at 1, go to 6, and then you start over here at 7, and continue. Well, that means the surveyor would have to backtrack 6 miles back to here. So instead, there's actually a term in Greek called bostropheidon, I think, bostropheidon, as the ox plows. So this would be just like a farmer in a field with his ox, where you go over 6, you drop down to the next row, go over, drop down to the next row. Okay? So it engenders this sort of convoluted system that's counterintuitive and strange to explain. But that's essentially what's going on. It's actually better in the field not only to have something like this, but because you're always wandering. So let's see if we can find the better one. Okay, so here we have, so you're out in the field, and I can make this available as a download if there's enough interest, is here you have your township, and then you have the numbers in relation to the adjoining townships. Because like you know with all maps, there's always something on the corner that you need that the map ends. So this is a really good method to know where you are on the ground. So let's go back here. Again, we have 6 miles by 6 miles. This is an old Metzger's map. This blue color is very legible, like a blueprint. You'll see, dipping into townships themselves, sometimes you'll see townships labeled like this. Not so much in the desert, but in populated areas. There's survey townships, and then you have these civil or judicial townships, which are governmental entities. So sometimes the judicial township will follow the survey township, but not always. If you look closely at a Metzger's map or something similar, you'll see that they sometimes share the boundaries, but most often not. Usually a judicial or government, a civil township will be larger than a survey township. So don't get confused. They exist actually to this day in Clark County, where I live, in the Good Springs, which is still a mining district. We actually have a constable that patrols the Good Spring civil township. Yes, a real constable. And okay, back into, like I say, not all townships are perfect, or the section numbering. So here we have a Mexican land grant, and they could be Spanish land grants in Arizona, Mexican, Spanish land grants in Arizona, New Mexico, here they are in California, in which the USGS did not survey this land. This is not government land. Nevertheless, they tried to manage, starting with 1, and then they dropped down. Essentially, they projected these lines across. This land probably got privately surveyed, or like Las Vegas had the railroad plat, as they say, the township, not the USGS. And that's it for right now on townships and sections. I know this is just an introduction, because the public land survey system really gets complex as an introduction. Let me see if I can find it. It's the hardest thing in any demonstration. So this is a Goldfield map, a real representation of old mining claims, because your mining claims usually will not fit perfectly in these squares. Often they wander into other sections, and then you have overlapping claims or ones that are close to each other. So this is for another discussion. On the numbering, you can find what I would call land sectioning tools. And a land sectioning tool will lay out the numbers for you to make it easier to visualize. You can place these on maps and get oriented better. This is really nice when you're reading a map. If you don't have a printout, which I think are even better, but these land sectioning tools exist. These are made for 7.5-minute topographical maps, which we can get into later. If you find a book like this, Dimensions by a title insurance company, will really start to get you into how this, I'll call it a mess, is laid out. But it's an organized mess. So this is probably too difficult to see. But this will tell you, this will break down sections into quarter sections, thirds, quarters of a quarter, and all of that. We can get into that later. But that's just an introduction to township numbering. So again, this is the reason it's done, is we're working across and then down, because that was the easiest way to survey, and then over and then back across. So thank you very much, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.